This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life, where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. My name is Jake, and I have a pretty special episode for you today. I'm speaking with Promise 686, which is a foster and adoption agency in our North Georgia region. They actually service much more than just our region, but they are a big factor in that element of life for a lot of people in our community that are going through the foster care system or going into the adoption process. So Jean has a really unique firsthand experience with this, with her own family, which she will share in the podcast, and also some information about what the needs are, what some of the unknowns are in the process, and how all of us can be involved, even if we're not stepping into the role of being a foster family or an adoptive family. It is a huge need in our area, and something that, as she will share with you, is far more rewarding than about anything else she's encountered in life. So with that as a means of introduction, I'll remind you one more time, you can look us up on Facebook for any information on podcasts that you've missed. It's North Georgia Life Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. You can also email us if you have any questions on any of the information we've covered, and we'll do our best to get back to you quickly with any information that might be helpful to you. The email is northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com. All right, so with that as a means of introduction, we will get right to it. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. My name is Jake, and we've got a pretty special day for you. I am here with Jean Rector, who is the regional manager for Promise 686, which is a growing organization in our area, but it's not specific just to our North Georgia region, although this is where they call headquarters and call home. So for those of you who are not familiar with this organization, there's going to be some heartstrings that we're going to be tugging on here over the next few minutes, and we know that there is a lot of people who want to engage in the foster care and adoption community that just don't know how to, don't know the right way to get involved in helping our community that is in need of good home environments, good support environments. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So, Jean, thank you for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
You have a pretty interesting story, as we were just talking about. This is not just a job for you, but this has been kind of part of your actual life. So tell us a little bit about how you first came across Promise 686.
So I am a mom of 4 boys. 3 of them are biological, but one of them is adopted. And we met him when he was 14 years old. He's from Russia. We hosted him, and while it was not a program for adoption, he made it clear that he would like us to adopt him. And at the time, my husband was not, I guess let's say he's in a job transition. And so we were not financially able to do an expensive adoption because Russia is a very expensive adoption. And God placed in our laps Promise 686. A friend of mine said, hey, I just sat on a board and they just became a nonprofit and they offer matching grants. And so why don't you reach out to them? And so we are their first matching grant recipient, and it enabled us to adopt our son.
So your family is literally like the first.
The very first.
The very first.
Yes. And
now you're engaged in actually working for them, advocating what you've experienced in your own family.
Yes, absolutely.
So for a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but there's a number of people who have mentally dabbled in what would it look like for our family to be involved in adopting or in becoming a foster family. Having done that as a family, having literally walked those steps, what would you say was part of the process that was expected, not expected? How did you guys kind of handle that decision making internally as a family? And then, you've got 3 other kids, so does everybody get an equal vote? How do you? there's so many complexities that a lot of people have the heart and intention, but they never can actually move forward in the action steps because this is you're talking about changing life, both for you and for the person coming potentially into your family. So how does that work?
For us, I will say that after we hosted him, he made it known to us that even though he didn't speak English, that he wanted us to adopt him. I'm
just
like,
curious.
no.
Like he's like me, family. Like was that?
We did this little ICQ, which was like a instant message type thing. So once he was back in Russia, he could. It was weird because it was through pictures a lot, but he just made it known, and he's like, I just want to stay here, and I want to go to school here, we used some translation on the phone things, and so I'm like, well, he was just going to stay, like not go back, and I'm like, oh no, you have to go back,
Yeah,
and so he does have a grandma over there, and we had to ask her permission, and she definitely wanted it for him, but I was very reluctant to say yes. Just a lot of fear, like he was 14 years old, bringing a 14-year-old, 16 was, bringing a baby is one thing, but bringing a teenager into your life who doesn't speak English, there was just a lot of fear on my part. And I think God just kept tugging at my heart, and I had no peace whatsoever with not adopting him. And once a friend said, well, why don't you just go until God says no? And so I did, and once I did that, I had peace.
Yeah.
And then God provided all the other fill-in steps, and he truly is a miracle because, he turned 16 the week we got him, and once you turn 16, you're not adoptable anymore. So had that court gone one more day, week, whatever, he would not be part of our family. And actually, the doors to Russia closed the week in between our court when we were supposed to go back and get him. I don't know if you remember, a Russian child was sent home on a plane with a tag saying we don't want him that had been adopted. I don't know if you remember that.
But
we landed and that happened.
Oh my gosh.
So all of Russia was closed, but somehow God kept his one region open.
Wow.
So I think he's probably one of the last kids out of Russia to for an American adoption.
Wow. And that was how long ago now?
He has been with us now 9 years.
Okay.
He's 25 now.
25.
And he just graduated from University of North Georgia. So
that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Go Nighthawks. And what's he want to do?
Well, he came over on an art contest. We hosted him.
Okay.
So it was a Christian art contest, which was pretty cool. They had to read a Bible story, and they had to do a piece of artwork. And the 10 winners got to come over and stay with a Christian family for 10 days. So it really was more about Russia was letting this organization get Christianity into all these orphanages.
Yeah, which if you know anything about how Russia and the government works, that's an anomaly in and of itself.
Right.
So in a 10-day period, he was like, this is the family I want to live with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's transport back a little bit. So you're originally from where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis. And you got to Georgia how?
My husband took a job that brought us here back in 2000.
Okay.
So I never thought we'd leave St. Louis.
Okay.
And but at the time, I knew that's what God wanted us to do, and so that's where we landed here. You're
here in Georgia. How long before you're in this 10-day hosting period that has now connected you with why we're sitting down together?
Probably 9 years.
About 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you go through. So it was about a 2-year process between starting the adoption process and ending the adoption process. For those families who are involved in this process, or really just trying to maybe like you were, the fear has kind of kept them because they've heard, I don't say the horror stories, but how long the process is, how expensive the process is, the emotional taxing. Having gone through that for 2 years, what would you, being on the other side now a while now, what would you say to a family who's kind of entering in those first steps or just in the thought process of that?
Well, one thing I would say is, we had to reach out to Promise for that matching grant. And through that, you send letters to your friends asking them to make a matching donation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fear from my husband. He did not want to ask people to contribute to our adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like we had to put that in God's hands, and that God wanted to provide for that. He did not want us to provide for that. And he wanted to show us the miracle.
Yeah.
Of that happening. And I just think that through the whole thing, it was God just showing off, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And every fear that I would have, he would answer. And so it was more blessing than fear.
Yeah. So the willingness on our part, God has the able part.
Yes.
It's just the willing on our part that's often the speed bump to get us on the other side.
Yeah. And I see that in our ministry too, like in foster care. I think everybody's afraid, you hear the horror stories, and to step in. And, we created those care communities. And so often when someone serves on a care community first, they can get past that fear and realize these are just children that need our help.
Yeah.
And we have found that like about a third of the foster families that we've raised up since we've started first served on a care community.
Oh, wow. So talk a little bit about that. Is the care community concept unique to Promise, or was this a model that you all adopted from another organization? For those not familiar with this, it's basically you're creating a support network of sorts around families who have taken the step to become a foster family. So they've gone through the training, they've gone through all of the the certification process from both the state or whatever organization that they're fostering through. But then you've created this structure around them to help with some of the heavy lifting and just life stuff. So talk a little bit about that and what that looks like, and just some of the response that you've gotten from having that as an option.
Well, I think, not everybody can foster, but I think everybody can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was kind of the whole premise of like, you may not be able to foster, but you can support a family that is fostering so that they can do it better and longer and not feel like they're out there alone. And it's a statistic that most 50% of foster families, even though it's a very difficult process, quit after the first year. Well, with these care communities around these families, 90% of them make it.
Yeah.
Only 10% are quitting after the first year. So the care community, while it seems like, oh, I'm just taking a meal once a week, or maybe I'm babysitting, or being a tutor or helping in this small way, it may not feel like a whole lot to you, like you're not doing a lot. But we have so many foster families that say, I would have stopped if it weren't for my care community.
Yeah. So talk about some of the elements and the aspects of what the care community does in just a practical, logistical sense.
Typically, we have about 6 to 8 people on a team. One person is the team leader, and they stay in contact with the family on a weekly basis, and get prayer requests from them and put their needs, like if they need childcare, they put that on a calendar that goes out to the team, so they maintain the team. We have typically 4 family helpers who deliver a meal. So like the first Monday of every month, you may deliver the meal to the family, and the family might choose Monday because that's court day, and so it's a busy day, and they know that getting home and have to make a meal after that is just very difficult. And then we like to offer some sort of child care support, like a date night, like a couple times a month, where they can get a little bit of a reprieve.
Right.
And if we're able to, we like to give them respite, where they can actually, get a night off or a weekend off, or if they're going out of town, that this respite family can be like the aunt and uncle, so that there's this constant for the child too,
right.
know.
To your comment earlier about everybody can do something, becoming involved in one of these
care community
could be as simple as we can bring, another family, one meal a month.
Yes.
It can be something like that, or we can come be babysitters, one evening a month. And then you take that and you multiply it by, 5, 6, 8 people, and now you have built-in relief valves, if for lack of a better term, for the families who are actually living the day-to-day foster experience. It's kind of like a warm-up lap almost,
Yeah.
where you can just have kind of a courtside seat and not be a maybe your starting five,
Right.
kind of thing as a basketball analogy. But there's such a great concept, and we're actually here at 12 Stone Church, which is one of the church partners that Promise has, one of several that I know of in the area. But talk a little bit about some of the churches, organizations, and how you've engaged with the church communities and whatever other organizations that you all are partnered with and involved with, and what that's been like, and the involvement, and just some of those things.
Well, God has really blessed us. We now have 315 partner agencies and churches.
Wow.
We've kind of grown outside of Georgia. We're now in 17 different states.
Oh, wow.
And so, we'll have affiliates come, and then they train their churches in that state. We have 74 churches in Georgia that are partners right now. Love to see a church in every county. We have Metro Gwinnett, where we started, is very well covered, but we're still lots of room to grow and expand throughout the rest of Georgia.
Just curiosity question: what is a normal day like for you? Let's say somebody is just in a season of life where fostering is not something they can handle right now. They can get involved in a care team, but somebody that maybe this is kind of where their heart is. They want to know, what is life like for a regional manager for an adoption and foster agency? What does your day-to-day look like?
My day-to-day would be a lot of communication with the actual advocates at the churches. So we host a clinic, which is a one-day class that teaches someone how to be an advocate at their church and have what we call a family advocacy ministry. And we give them all the tools and resources to be very successful, and make it very easy, even down to, here, send this email, and it's already written up,
right.
Here's what you need to do, and it has videos and how to run an awareness event and things like that. And so a lot of times my job is the communication with these advocates, we're going to do an awareness event. What do you think of this idea or this idea? Or, I'm having problems with this one care community. What would you do? Or one of the great things that we now offer is we have our own database called Promise Serves. And so all the churches put in their volunteers. So the other day I was putting together a team for Sugar Hill, but I only had 2 families at my church. And so I was able to go on there and find 2 churches that had other families that were geographically sweet to this family, and ask their advocates, can they join this team? So it's cross churches.
Yeah.
It's not just, it can be just your church, but it can also be cross churches.
Yeah.
And I just love how it's, cross denominations, and it's the body of Christ doing what the body of Christ needs to do. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So because we have a lot of people especially in our region in Georgia that will drive 30 minutes to an hour to church, depending on where they want to go to church or denomination or whatever. But they could have, a foster family that they could help support as part of a care team 10 minutes from their house.
Yeah.
So that's great to know, just as far as a resource. So my wife and I watched the movie Instant Family about a few weeks ago. I'm assuming you've seen it.
I've seen it.
Very
well done. Very accurate depiction in almost every single way.
Yes. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it is a movie. Mark Wahlberg's in it. He plays the dad, and it is a movie about the foster system, where a couple that doesn't have kids basically jumps into fostering and adopting a sibling group. And there's a little bit of language in it, but it is, it'll make you cry. I mean, Amber, my wife and I, we laughed so hard at so many parts. Like, I don't know that I've watched a movie where I've actually laughed that hard at so many different places. So if you haven't seen it, I would highly encourage you to watch it. Talk a little bit about some of the, I don't know, the misconceptions or the, I don't want to call them myths, but some of the big reasons that people don't even, it's like fostering is a good idea, but they hear so many stories of just, the kid that's a terror or something like that, and they have no idea. They've never dealt with anything as far as an environment of conflict or kids acting out, which if you haven't done that, you probably don't have kids. So you mentioned earlier that, these are just kids. For people who are hung up on that, what would you say to them as far as, just kind of an honest look in engaging and moving forward in their own thought process and activity?
Well, I certainly don't want to sugarcoat it because fostering is hard. But at the same time, a lot of what the kids come with is trauma, like being removed from your mom and dad is trauma. So they are going to come in and be scared, and so you just need to recognize that it's not you they're mad at necessarily. And once they get past that, that those, what am I trying to say?
The bonds almost, or
well, just those bad habits.
Oh, yes.
Can be changed just by love, you know what I mean? And I think the better equipped the parent is at recognizing trauma or triggers or things like that and knowing how to deal with them, they can help the child get past that, quicker. Yeah. But definitely they have to know that they're coming in with trauma.
Yeah. With your situation, having your adopted son, were there any? Can you give us any examples of like this was, because you're not just dealing with somebody from a different family, you're talking about a completely different culture and a life that has got to have some more pronounced hurdles to kind of go through, because you got a language barrier, you got food, I mean, all these different things. Any things that when you're kind of thinking back through the journey you've been on, any of those hurdles that you could share, that this is an example of what we went through and something that we dealt with. And
we definitely went through some of that. There was, I would say with him, it was a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So you never knew what you were going to get, because he could just be angry over something that we didn't understand, and so that communication. So as time went on and we were able to communicate and he was able to trust us more, the highs and lows got closer together, fewer of them, and they didn't get as high or as low. But that first year, like, you could go out to eat and he's gone, because he didn't get to order what he wanted to order, so it was, but as he learned to trust us, and it just got better.
Yeah. And I think in any relationship, the more engaged and the longer the relationship, the more the trust will come as a natural byproduct of that. And that's something that, wasn't a setup, but in the movie that we just talked about, you see that over the course of that movie, that there's a trust that's built there.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part about what you do?
Just yesterday, a friend who was a foster mom, who I was the care team leader for when I first started, before I even worked for Promise, and she called to say that she was getting to adopt her 2 kids. It's been almost 5 years now.
Wow.
And she said, I would not have taken that placement had you and your care team not been there for me.
Wow. And
getting to know those kids, and when we would sit with them and put them to bed and read Bible stories or pray with them, or just it's just, I think it's that hope that that's what's going to happen, and that you're going to have that forever family in the end, and so that keeps me going.
Wow. And that was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Yeah. So, good timing.
Yeah.
You currently live in Gainesville.
Yes.
So we'll go off topic for a minute. What's one of your favorite things to do, places to go around Gainesville?
Really, the boat. Being out on Lake Lanier,
Yeah.
we are a boat-loving, fishing-loving family, and so just time as a family out there together, just hanging out. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yep. There are a lot of people who are nodding their head in agreement to that. In the last few years, Promise has gone from, I would say, a more local, regional to now 17 states. What's the vision for the next 5 to 10 years?
You hate to project. That's kind of in God's hands. But we just recently became the implementing partners for Care Portal, which is a prevention tool. So DFACs can put in a need, and it goes to our church partners, and they can fill that need, hopefully making a relationship with the family that they deliver to. And that's been just huge. And we're in 10 counties, and the economic impact in less than 2 years is already over $500,000.
Wow.
And Gwinnett, their numbers of children in care has gone down drastically, and they are saying that it has a lot due to the Care Portal needs being met by the church.
So talk a little about what are some of those needs. Is this stuff like home supply, like food, home supplies? People think that these are 100% of the kids in foster system have been abused or parents went to jail, and that's not the case. There's instances where just life happens to the family,
right?
And these are otherwise normal kids that just were dealt a bad hand as a family unit. Now there's effectively a vehicle in place to help provide some of those needs before we get to the point of having kids have to be removed from their homes. So what are some of those things, and what does that look like?
Well, oftentimes it's a bed. A lot of times when DFACS has been called, if the child doesn't have a bed, they have to remove the child. And so sometimes it's just for a bed. One recently was for a mom who had put a deposit down on an apartment, and the apartment had mold. And she had to get in the apartment by Wednesday, or she was going to lose her 3 kids. Well, she couldn't get her money back on the molded apartment, but she needed an apartment, or her kids were going to go into care. And so they put that out as an urgent need, and someone met that. And so she was able to get her apartment and keep her 3 kids.
Wow.
And then another agency, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, came and delivered beds to her through the Care Portal need as well. And so it's that kind of thing. Or sometimes it can be, I've done where, they've had a good connection with, say, a coach at school, but they can't afford to keep the kid, say, in football, and so they'll put that out there. And if a church meets that need, then that kid is able to stay connected to that coach or that sport or whatever is making their life, helping them to be more successful.
Yeah.
We like the needs to, I'm trying to think of the word, make their life better, but not like enable them.
Yeah.
I can't think of the wording.
Like an actual resource, not just here's a gift card to go do stuff.
Yes, yes.
All of us know that have been through school and have kids in school know that if you're a parent, you don't know anything and you're ignorant, but the coaches and the teachers, they're like geniuses and they're brilliant. And so to be able to provide something as simple as whatever the fees are for a sport, you can be the bridge to helping that student stay connected to that person. And we all know, most of us can think back when we were in grade school, those 2 or 3 teachers or coaches that potentially changed the direction of our lives just by where they were in that space in life. So how does somebody find out about that? Maybe somebody's saying, my travel schedule, I never know where I'm going to be. I really don't feel like I can commit to doing a care team just where I'm at in life, but I can hop online and check a website for a need and fill that and be part of an engaged and active role in helping families in the community and helping the foster system, these kids. How does somebody find out about something like that?
Well, they can go to careportal.org and sign up and see if their church is already a a partner in that. And like I said, we're only in 10 counties so far.
Okay.
I believe we're adding maybe 6 more for 2020 is the goal and the hope. But so we need more churches so that if they would choose to be the point person for their church, they can go up and sign their church as a waiting church. Then when we get to that area, we know we have enough church support to go ahead and bring it to that area.
Okay.
So that would be the best thing, is if their church isn't already a partner, if they could be the person. And it's really basically sending out emails. It's a very easy job.
Yeah. We're currently sitting in Hall County. Hall County currently involved?
No. I
Hall
wanted
County
to be here in 2021 is my goal. We do have maybe 10 churches that have signed up so far, but it's such a big region, region 2. Well, in Hall, I probably only have 2 or 3 churches that have currently signed up.
Okay.
So we need a good 10 churches in an area. Otherwise, the needs are going to come in. They're not going to get met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. That is my hope is that if we sit back here in a few years, that we've got like most of Georgia covered.
Yes.
That would be awesome. All right. So there's work to do, but that's a great resource. Just such a neat idea. One of the things I'm not anti-technology. A lot of technology really irks me because of the negative that it produces, but technology in this case is enabling a very, very positive thing for our community. All right, so we're gonna go a little bit off track here. What I like to call our lightning round. It has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. We're gonna go best moments in United States Olympic history. I'm gonna test your memory of Olympics here.
Oh, great.
Okay, so these are pretty landmark moments. So hopefully you remember them. If not, there's no wrong answer. So no pressure. All right, so which was the better moment in Olympic U.S. history? Carrie Strug's one-footed landing in gymnastics, and I don't even remember what year it was, which is terrible. I should have looked that up. But it was off the pommel horse vault thing. Do you remember that? Okay.
That.
So that, or Carl Lewis running the 4th leg of the men's relay in his 4th consecutive Olympics, which I believe was the Atlanta Olympics, in which he decimated the competition behind him.
I'd have to go with the gymnastics. My husband would pick the other one, though.
I remember both with kind of ridiculous clarity, both incredible. To me, Carl Lewis was one of my childhood heroes, so I would go with Carl Lewis, although I don't know if Carl Lewis ever landed on one ankle to win an Olympic gold. How do people find out more about Promise if somebody wants to just kind of get their feet wet and feel it out, knows they are not ready to commit to moving forward, or maybe somebody is? How do they get connected with you? What's the process like? Where do they find you online, social media, that sort of thing? What would be a next step for somebody that's ready to go and somebody that really just wants to get their toes wet?
Well, our website is promise686.org. And you can go on there and, we have a info@promise email. So if they want more information, they can email that and we'll be in touch then with them with whatever information they need. Mm-hmm. We have a clinic, which is the 1-day training for an advocate to have a family advocacy ministry at your church. This is typically not a staff person. This is a person with a heart and passion to make a difference, to do something for vulnerable children. Sometimes it's a foster parent. We prefer it not to be because their hands are already full. Yeah. But we have a lot that are foster parents, that do come to the clinic. The clinic will give them all the information they need to take back and really to truly have a successful ministry. We have what we call a portal, and it has all the videos and emails and everything, and then of course they have a regional manager support to help them through that. We do like it better if we have a team rather than just one person, so grab someone else that you feel would be a good support system. It's just things happen in life, so having more than one person, then the ministry can keep going if something happens in your life, and it's always better. Two is always better than one. So But September 23rd is our next clinic.
Okay.
And it's in Metro Atlanta.
Okay.
And then we have one following that in November.
And are those posted on the website?
They are posted on the website, and you can register for them on the website.
Do you have a social media following? Can people find you on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that?
Yes, we have Promise 686 Facebook.
Okay. And the care portal was careportal.org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
all
people,
one word.
So people can go online, look up that website, and if they're in an area or they're involved in a church that's in that area that is already on the list, they can be part of the needs meeting team of getting those requests for a bed or a security deposit or whatever, football scholarship, that sort of thing. On just behalf of people who are, I would say, we're quasi-involved right now, we were talking about before, so our family had started the process of going through the foster care training. We've had our 2.5-year-old has had some just health issues that we've had to kind of push pause on that, but we got involved in a care team at our church, and which is here at 12 Stone, and have been basically doing that. It's a meal once a month. It's just a huge burden, and when you don't have to lift all of the heavy lifting yourself, it's a great thing to have.
Can I share one story?
Absolutely.
So Habersham has a church up there that is just doing amazing things. They want to have a care community on every foster family that's up there. And they put this care community around this foster family that had 3 girls. And they did it for 2 years. And they went above and beyond. When the family went out of town, they went in and redid their hardwood floors.
Wow.
And they came back and were surprised to that. They took a small group and put it around this family, and some of the people came willingly and some came reluctantly. Well, one of the husbands who came reluctantly, once he met those girls, fell in love with them, became a foster family themselves so that they could respite those girls. And they also supported the biological father, and so well that he became a Christian.
Oh, my goodness.
So then when he got the kids back and the foster family no longer had the kids, the care community, was the foster family was going to take a rest. So,
right.
And the care community came back and said, we want to support the biological dad and the girls. So they continued to support this dad. Well, I just heard recently that the dad died in an ambulance.
Oh, no.
Only like 40 years old, but he was resuscitated. And so he's alive.
Oh, my God.
But the care community is now helping him because he would have lost his kids.
Oh, my goodness.
And so they're helping him through this medical emergency and with his kids. And I just love the full circle of that story, and that's...
Yep.
Yeah.
What a great way to end. The ultimate heart behind this podcast is helping us embrace life where we live and, really become neighbors again, both in learning and hearing about the backgrounds of people who own small businesses, operate restaurants in our community, and do things like this that because of how easy and accessible things are in the technology platforms, we can very easily, because it's comfortable and it's easy, lose the reality of the fact that there are people who are having real life happen to them, some of which is not anything to do with their fault or their bad decisions or whatever. But how many of us would love to be the recipients on that story? And I would venture to say that the people who were involved in that care team would argue that they got more out of it than the family that was receiving it.
Absolutely.
So that's what it's all about. It's about life change and growing and loving the area that we're in. We're in a phenomenal area. This is just one of the many aspects of the area that I think is a hidden gem to a lot of us. So we hope you'll get online, find out more about them, sign up for a care portal or a care team for some of these families, or get involved in fostering to adopt yourself. So with that, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.